Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1991 action film, The Taking of Beverly Hills. Now, this film to me personally is an underrated gem. I have always enjoyed this movie ever since I blind bought this on VHS ages ago, and I was very pleasantly surprised by it. And every time I watch it, it's a blast. It's a really fun, exciting action film. And there are some action films that I would say I do like more than this, but I would say that this is one of my personal favorites. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on The Taking of Beverly Hills, I would like to give a special shout out to Steven for requesting this review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Cash App, or my Patreon. The links to all three are in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your requests as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Taking of Beverly Hills is a film directed by Sidney J. Furie. And Sidney J. Furie has a filmography that is pretty diverse with a lot of different genres. But I would say the genre that he's most well known for and well equipped for is the action genre. Because, in my opinion, his best film is Iron Eagle. Close second is The Entity. But I think his best overall movie is Iron Eagle. And his experience directing an action film like that really did pay off with The Taking of Beverly Hills. Because I think he did a genuinely great job directing this film. It's got a nice mix of style and flair that really does give it a nice vibe and overall attitude. I think the usage of camera angles and different perspectives and just camera techniques in general is very sound. It's very solid. And the action is shot in amazing fashion. And I think that is really where Sidney is at his best, is shooting the elaborate action sequences, the scenes like when Boomer and Kelvin are running while Benitez is shooting at them with this tank, and all these different buildings and all this different stuff is exploding behind them, and the sequence in the parking garage with Benitez on this truck with this flamethrower while Kelvin and Boomer are in this uh, car in this fancy rich car, trying to get away from them, and the car's on fire, and then it winds up falling through multiple floors of a building later. Like, there's a lot of moments in this that are quite impressive when it comes to the stunt work and the action and the explosions, and a lot of it has to do with Sidney J. Furie because of the fact that he is really skilled at shooting those kind of sequences. He's shown that throughout his career, even with some films that had far lower budgets later on in the 90s. So, in my opinion, while the action is not as bombastic or as adrenaline inducing as some of the other action films from this time, it's just so competently well done and shot by Sidney J. Furie. It still provides a significant thrill. And the direction is not something that's like award winning. It's not something you're going to think about for days or months after you watch this film. But it's never an issue. It's never a problem. It's always a positive. And with an action film like this, the action is really the aspect of the film that is the most important for the director to get right. And Fury does that and then some with The Taking of Beverly Hills. The screenplay is by Rick Natkin, David Fuller, and David J. Burke. And it's based on a story by Furie, Natkin, and Fuller, because this was really Furie's idea. He came up with the idea of Beverly Hills getting ransacked and Beverly Hills itself, like the entire city, being the heist. And then he went from there. And this, in my opinion, is a way better screenplay than people give it credit for. This is not anywhere near as dumb or as bad of a script as critics at the time made it out to be, or people still try to make it out to be to this day. Is it kind of implausible at points? Yes. It's not what I would consider to be the smartest and the most clever screenplay of its type, but that doesn't mean that it's dumb, and it doesn't mean that it's bad. There's actually a lot of things about this screenplay that are actually quite inspired and genuinely unique when it comes to an action film of this nature. For one, I think the whole premise of it is strong and is genuinely great. It's a great idea. The idea that you'd have a heist film, but the heist is the entire city. And how are you going to set that up? And I think the way that it's set up is actually really well done. What happens is there's this rich socialite in Beverly Hills who's trying to get more power in a certain corporation that he's eyeing, and in order for him to become board of directors, he has to do something drastic to ensure that. So this socialite named Robert Masterson, he comes up with this master plan to hire a bunch of former security guards and dirty or disgruntled cops and have them work on his payroll to rip off Beverly Hills. And they do that by setting up a roadblock in the form of a truck that flips over and it starts leaking what is considered to be toxic gas all throughout the city. And Masterson has set things up where he's got guys uh, dressing up and masquerading as the EPA and people in hazmat suits driving around in trucks with waste containers. And they show up at the scene of the crash and they start building the roadblock right away. They just basically just start calling the shots. And the cops are involved, but the cops show up and they don't have their hazmat suits. So the crooks in the EPA outfits and the guys wearing the hazmat suits, they tell the cops to go back to the precinct to get their hazmat suits. The cops are in the back putting their hazmat suits on, and then these other crooks come in and they lock them in the precinct. So now all the cops of Beverly Hills are locked behind closed doors, and Beverly Hills is for the taking. And I think it's a really good concept. I don't think it's dumb. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. But Masterson and his crew, they didn't really take into account two guys. One is uh, football phenom and star quarterback David Boomer Hayes, and another is a cop named Officer Kelvin, who initially was in on the entire heist, but once he saw how people were getting hurt uh, and actually saw the mayor of the city get shot in cold blood, he realized that this wasn't for him and he couldn't stand by it. So he and Boomer are all that stands between this heist getting pulled off and Beverly Hills getting ripped off to the tune of almost $1 billion because I think it winds up being like $700 million in the end, if I remember correctly. So like it's a ton of money. Like they're just ripping off Beverly Hills for like 700 million. And there are some other people that are involved behind the scenes. There's this woman named Laura Sage who was in a bit of a romantic fling with Boomer. They went on a little date. Both of them are initially left behind when Beverly Hills is evacuated because of the gas. But then she goes to check the door. She winds up getting taken and then gets sent off to this hotel somewhere. And Boomer only gets away because the guys who were setting up this whole thing, putting people on buses, they just assume that he's the lady's dog. He's like, well, Boomer's still in there. They're like, oh, it's probably her dog. Who cares? But it's the quarterback, a Boomer Hayes. And I really like how the writers write Boomer Hayes as a character. He's very grounded and he's very realistic, despite this being kind of an over the top action film. Like, he's not Superman. In fact, in order for him to even be able to run properly, he winds up injecting his leg with cortisone because the day before he had a football game and he's sore, and because of his football injuries over the years, his legs are kind of messed up. And that is something that's incorporated into the script. He's also not a guy who's that good at fighting. He's not a martial artist. He's not really that good at hand-to-hand combat. It's not his thing. He can tackle, roughhouse, use his physical stature and his frame in a fight, but that's not really something that he is the best at. He doesn't like guns. He's not very good at using guns. So instead, he winds up using Molotov cocktails, his wits to outsmart the bad guys, different things that are available to him during a fight, like a rock that's on the ground, or he winds up taking the kind of firepower that's available to him, like a tank. So I think the way the Boomer is written in particular is really clever and does not get enough credit because you don't really see a lot of action films like this with a guy who's just very regular, very grounded, who's like only able to run fast with a cortisone shot. And yeah, he does things like dodge explosions and stuff like that, but it doesn't really seem like it's that far-fetched or that crazy. A lot of the stuff that he winds up pulling off doesn't really feel like something that's in the realm of total fantasy. And it's the same thing with his partner and this kind of, squirrely guy and Kelvin, who's a lot of ways much like your average nerdy guy. Like, he just seems like he's a nerdy cop. Uh, he's the last person you would think would actually survive a siege of this sorts. A heist of Beverly Hills and being the target of all of these bad guys. But he holds his own in his own way as well. And the script does a good job making Boomer and Kelvin a very unlikely and genuinely fun duo. And the villains are good too. Like, Robert Masterson is very vile and slimy. Varney is vicious and vile in his own way. Benitez, the hitman for hire, is definitely somebody who's quite intimidating and a guy that you genuinely love to hate and want to see him get his ass kicked. And there are some other characters like the chief of police, Chief Healy, the mayor who winds up getting shot, this guy who's saying he's from the EPA, but he's not really, and Laura Sage, who is like the love interest for Boomer, and this rich girl who is like a big part of the humanitarian aspect of Beverly Hills. And she winds up doing her own investigating on the side, listening in on conversations between Robert and his crew. And then, of course, she winds up getting captured by Robert. And then she has to get saved by Boomer in the end. It's not a film that I would probably say has a lot of twists and turns in it that are really that shocking or are really going to throw you for a loop. But that doesn't really hurt the film that much because the setup is really about the whole heist itself, how Beverly Hills is left to be ransacked, how Bat is unfolding his plan, the whole idea to use insurance for the bank to essentially ensure his spot on the board at this company is honestly really clever and quite smart. And it would have worked if it wasn't for Boomer Hayes and Officer Kelvin. And when the film really gets going after I think like the first 30 minutes or so, it's pretty nonstop. It's pretty relentless when it comes to its pace and the overall flow of the story and the action. There's a ton of explosions, there's a ton of car crashes, there's gunplay, but it's not really that kind of film when it comes to the action. It's not really a film that's going to have a lot of gunfights. In fact, there's one scene where a Boomer actually discharges a gun inside of a car that he's in while he's trying to get away from the bad guys, and he even says a line like "I hate guns." Um, I do feel that that could have been handled a bit better though, because it just didn't make a lot of sense at that moment for Boomer to just unload the gun inside of the car. It was dumb and kind of out of character and impulsive in a way that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I get what the writer's trying to do here. The writers are trying to establish that he doesn't like guns, so he's not going to use guns. But I think there could have been a better way to handle that. Like maybe okay, he does try to use the gun, but he's not good at aiming and he just winds up using all the ammo and then he throws the gun outside the window. Like I don't think you really needed to have him like fire the gun inside of the car. Um, and another moment in the script that I think could have been handled better is the final fight between Boomer and Benitez. Like Benitez has been set up in this script to be a pretty big baddie, like a big boss kind of bad guy who is one step ahead of Boomer. Boomer gets close to getting him, but then he gets away, and he's just constantly a thorn in Boomer's side throughout the entirety of the script. So you're thinking, okay, this is going to lead to a really satisfying final bout between these two. And instead, what you get is a very forgettable uh, scuffle where they scuffle for a little bit. Boomer sees a rock on the ground, grabs it, throws it at Benitez's face, and knocks him out, and basically kills him with one shot with the rock. And I get it. He's a quarterback. So he's got a pretty strong arm. And it does tie into what the script is trying to do is this everyman who's just taking advantage of whatever things he's got at his disposal. But I wanted to see more. I wanted to see him punch Benitez a few times, kick him a few times, something, tackle him, do more than just this little scuffle where Boomer then winds up on the ground, finds the rock, and then throws it and hits the guy in the face. Like, I don't even know if they even get in a scuffle. Like, they have a little bit of a stare down. Benitez has a knife of some kind, and then he's going to use it, and then Boomer grabs the rock, throws it at him, it hits him in the head, and then he's dead. Like, I thought that was really disappointing. There was more of a scuffle. There was more of an actual fight between Boomer and Robert by the end of the story, and he wasn't really established anywhere near as much when it comes to the animosity between Robert and Boomer. It was more of, Benitez and Boomer throughout most of the story. There was also Varney, who was a big part of it too, and he got the best kill. Like he got the most crowd pleasing kill for sure. When he tries to blow up Boomer with a bomb, and Boomer wakes up and then grabs the bomb and then throws it. Perfect spiral, perfect aim, right into the back of Varney's vehicle, and then Varney gets blown sky high. That was a very satisfying, awesome way to take that guy out. So that was good. You gave us the crowd pleasing moment there, but you don't really give it with Benitez. I mean, that just was disappointing. I mean, and it honestly made the one-liner that Boomer has at the end of that confrontation kind of lame too, where Benitez is talking about "I hate football," and then Boomer just hits him in the head with the rock, and then he says the line, "I hate guys who don't like football," and I'm like, okay, all right, but like, you barely even battled that guy. And I guess maybe you could argue that, okay, we already had the big crowd pleasing moment where Boomer outsmarted Benitez earlier in the tank and had him drive into the pool, and you had what is arguably the best one liner in the entire film, touchdown, asshole. But I still would have liked to have seen more from the final fight between Benitez and Boomer. But other than stuff like that, I don't really have any issues with this script. The love story still worked for me between Boomer and Laura. I thought it was sweet and charming in its own way, and I felt that they were a nice couple, a nice pair. Uh, I felt the dynamic between Boomer and Kelvin was great and was established really strongly throughout the script and the story. The bad guys were vicious, they were memorable, they were fun to watch. There were a ton of explosions, a ton of action scenes, a tank, blowing up houses, uh, a truck with a flamethrower, cars going through multiple floors of buildings, um, explosives, an ending where the hero drives a tank through the bad guy's mansion and then gets into a fight with the bad guy and stabs him in the chest with I think it's like a like I think it's honestly the kind of thing that's something that this guy uses to help with his asthma. So he takes this thing that the guy would use to help him breathe and he uses it to kill him. So I thought that was pretty fun, pretty cool way to take the bad guy out, and the heist itself was uh imaginative and creative and well done and well executed, and you've got some good one-liners, you got some good lines throughout. I'm through playing defense. There's a lot, and I just really like the idea of a football quarterback being the star of an action movie. I mean, you have a little bit of that with Flash Gordon, but that's a different kind of thing. As a fan of football, this is just a fun idea and a fun premise in a lot of different ways. So I think this script is quite good. I don't really understand the criticisms. I don't understand why people think it's dumb and such a bad screenplay. I really don't feel that way at all about this script. And I think it's easily one of the best things about it, and one of the reasons why this film actually is such a gem. But another reason is definitely the cast. Now, originally, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in discussions to be the star, apparently. As much as I love Arnold, I just don't really feel this would have the same feel to it. And it wouldn't be the same kind of film if Arnold was the quarterback. I just don't buy Arnold as a quarterback to begin with. As a defensive lineman, sure. He's too jacked to be a quarterback. I mean, he does not really have a quarterback's build. You don't buy him as a quarterback of a football team. Also, with Arnold being cast, it's just another one of those things where you have the larger than life personality, the guy who is like superhuman in nature, and you miss the everyman quality that Ken Wahl brings to this film. And it deprives Ken Wahl, in my opinion, of his best film in general, his best film role. He's not the greatest actor in the world. I will have to admit that. There are some moments where the lines are a bit flat, but he has charm. He definitely is a guy who is able to provide a fair amount of charisma on screen. And I think he has some really good chemistry with Matt Frewer and Harley Jane Kozak. And I really did feel that he was a great casting choice for a quarterback, for an NFL of a player, or just NFL probably wasn't a thing, because they can't use the NFL officially, but you know what I mean. I think it was a good casting choice to play an athlete who's then thrown into this extraordinary scenario and then has to find a way to make it out alive. And Matt Frewer is also really good in this. This is one of my favorite roles from him. This is something that's really far outside his comfort zone. He's not normally a guy who's cast to play a cop and essentially the second male co-star in an action film. That's not really what you would think when it comes to Matt Frewer. You're thinking one of the dads in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You're thinking a crazy psycho bad guy in RoboCop the series. You're thinking Max Headroom. You're not thinking Officer Kelvin. And I think it worked. I think it worked really well. And Frewer added a really unique approach to the character that I don't really think would be there otherwise. And Harley Jane Kozak is solid and sexy and strong as ever. Like, I've always liked her. She's honestly one of my favorite actresses. I think she's very underrated. I mean, she has a ton of different performances in her career that are just genuinely great. I mean, Clean and Sober, she was in it for like a little bit, but not really anything that was that extensive. She was really more well known for Parenthood and Arachnophobia and Necessary Roughness. She was great in that too. And she's great in this. Robert Davi, he's such a great bad guy. Like, he does such a great job playing these kind of roles. Like, he's one of the guys that you have on your board of potential casting choices to play a slimy bad guy for a reason. And Ving, the lead singer of Fear, he's great in his own way, provides his own extra uh, special slime to the role. And I really like Branscombe Richmond as Benitez, who was like the heavy, the hitman. It was nice to see him get more screen time, get a really big role in this. He was, in my opinion, an underutilized actor. Like, he'd been in other action films. He was the Big Indian and Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. Uh, he was Detective Max Quintero in Hard to Kill. He was also in the TV show Renegade, and that's probably his biggest role. But I definitely felt that he could have done more in other action films, playing like the main bad guy or something. He definitely had that in him, like the intimidation factor, as well as his own bit of charm and charisma. Lyman Ward is solid, fine as Chief Healy. Same thing goes for Colonel Sanders himself from Spaceballs. George Weiner is the mayor of Beverly Hills. And you also have like Pamela Anderson, I guess in her first film role as an uncredited role as a cheerleader in this, but she has no lines. and I think she's on screen for like barely any time at all. I didn't even notice she was even in this movie. I think she's in like the end credits, I think, with the cheerleaders in the end credits or at some point in the film, but like it's not a pretty significant role by any means. Um, but yeah, I think this is a good cast. I don't agree with people who think Ken Wahl is a weak lead. I disagree with that entirely. I think him and Matt Frewer are a winning combination. They're a winning team, as well as the rest of the cast. The cinematography is decent. It's not too bad by Frankie Johnson. The editing by Anthony Gibbs, other than some, I don't know, kind of weird edits in the opening credits where it's trying a bit too hard to match the whole style of the song, and is very late 80s early 90s in almost kind of a cringe fashion with the whole like record skips and then the film stopping and then starting again. But other than that, I think it's pretty well edited because you don't get any of that during the action sequences and throughout the rest of the film. And the music by Jan Hammer, I thought was great too. Jan Hammer is a very underrated composer to me. He's not just a guy who did a lot of good work for TV. He also did good work for films. I mean, he did the score for I Come in Peace, and I thought he did a really good job with that score as well. Uh, in fact, I mean, I think he did. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he did. But now I know he did. Yeah, he did the score for I Come in Peace, which is a great score and it's a great movie. And it's another underrated gem, if you ask me. I Come in Peace. Yeah, Jan Hammer. So yeah, it's a good score and the soundtrack is awesome. This is a really badass, sick soundtrack. You have Epic by Faith No More. You have Black Cat by Janet Jackson, and some other songs from the soundtrack that are pretty cool as well. Um, yeah, this is a really kick-ass soundtrack, and it's definitely something that really elevates the film. And yeah, it does make it look like a music video at points, but in a good way. I mean, Ghost Box by Black Box, Unbelievable by EMF, really good remix of that. By the way, by Jan Hammer, um, Rock City by Damn Yankees, What Comes Naturally by Sheena Easton that plays during the end credits, For the Love of Money by OJ, the OJs, uh, Everybody Move by Kathy Dennis. Thankful for What You Got that plays during the opening credits by Peter Blakely. Yeah, it's a great soundtrack. And it's a fast-paced film. It's not really what I would consider to be a slog to sit through or a snooze. It's like 95 minutes and it goes by pretty quick and it's pretty consistently engaging and enjoyable if you ask me. So yeah, I really don't know what else to say about it except if for whatever reason you haven't seen this one yet, give it a watch sometime, especially if you enjoy uh 80s or 90s action films. If you like a lot of movies like that, I think you're definitely going to get some enjoyment and some thrills out of the Taking of Beverly Hills. But anyway, that is my thoughts on the film. And until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.